very much. Thank you very much. Great honor to be with you and to see a number of my friends here, a number of fellow advocates, particularly Omar and others that have advocated on Uyghur issues for some period of time. We had a first happen today, that, to my knowledge, a first happened today. A group of those who had been persecuted for their faith met with the President of the United States, met with President Trump. And so, yeah, if any of you guys have been around a president things, everything's scripted, you know, and it's okay. There's movements, and it's called the tick-tock. That's the schedule, and so there's a schedule, and you're going to enter at 4:02, and then the president's going to enter at 4:07, and then, you know, it just goes down by this sort of very minute by minute. Well, okay, so we're going on the tick-tock. We're going to have one person speak at it. That's what was allotted. And the president's going to fly out on the helicopter. This is the last meeting before he goes out on the helicopter. And so he's there, he goes, I speak, he has Paula White speak. And then the lady from Tibet says, Mr. President, and you know, that's fine, but there's a whole bank of media out here. There's like 20 media people right on this. And so I'm starting to sweat a little bit thinking, okay, now wait a minute, this is off script, and where is this going to go when it heads that way? Well, she was just very bold and wants to be heard by the president, nervous as can be, and she's, you know, and starts talking about Tibet to the president and what's taking place in Tibet. And then one of the other people pops up and says, I want you to hear what happened to me in Eritrea, and I was put in a container for 3 years. I was held in one of these storage containers, and he's, you know, oh, really? And well, let me tell me your story. And one of the Uyghurs then told her the story about her dad and being gone, and she hadn't seen him since 2014. And of course, I'm kind of thinking, this has either gone really good that the president has heard this, or this will never happen again. Is one of the two, and my hope is that this went really well, and people I thought they were very gracious in their comments, but passionate because they've experienced something very passionate. When you haven't seen your dad since 2014 because somebody's held him and won't tell you where he is, you have a right to be fairly passionate about something like that. And you ought to be heard, and you ought to be heard by the President of the United States and everybody else. And that's why we've given these platforms to people. And if the Chinese government wants to answer this and say, okay, here's where your dad is, and and he's free to go anytime, great. We're great with that. But if not, then we need to yell to the whole world that these people are missing. They've not been told, the families haven't been told where they are, and they need to know where they are, and they need to be let free. And we need to tell them that. And the whole world needs to yell about that. Because this is just a basic fundamental right if a person wants to practice their faith. So anyway, thanks. A number of you participated in the ministerial. We'll have the big government day tomorrow. I had one of the government people upstairs here at the Secretary of State's reception that we just had was commenting how good it was to have the NGOs and the religious community here at the same time the government's meeting, or to have some overlap. Because, you know, typically we're going to meetings and we've got government officials and we do government-to-government things, but it doesn't get the flavor. Governments deal in problems all day long, and they're trying to figure this out and do that and prioritize different things. But the NGO and the civil society and the religious community adds the passion and adds the story to it and adds the narrative that often is left out of a stale statistic debate about there's 1 million, no, there's 3 million Uyghurs that are in detention facilities. You know, either is horrible, one is bad, and this adds the flavor, and I really appreciate you guys doing that, and your willingness to continue to fight for these causes and to fight for each other's causes, not saying, you know, okay, it's okay if our faith gets free, but the other guys I'm not too concerned about. And, you know, you go, no, I'm concerned about all of them. And I'm concerned about all of them because this is a right that exists for all of us. And we're going to change the world by everybody pulling together on this. We will change the world doing this. You get all the faith communities to stand up for each other. This will change the world. This will do it. So keep pushing. You're doing it. Thank you very much. And let's see those Uyghurs be let free. Let's see them be let free. Let's tell the Chinese government, let them free. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Tom Gallagher. Tom is the CEO of the Religion News Foundation and publisher of Religion News Service. The foundation is an independent, nonprofit, educational, and charitable foundation based at the University of Missouri School of Journalism. The foundation facilitates and encourages discourse about religion in a neutral and informative way without endorsing or promoting any particular belief, system, or point of view. Religion News Services is an independent, nonprofit, and award-winning source of global news on religion, spirituality, culture, and ethics. Tom, thank you very much for joining us today.
I'm pleased to be here to represent the Religion News Service and to talk just very briefly about the role of media in covering religion. Several speakers have mentioned the power of the media, and they're correct. They're correct because oppressors of religious freedom fear the written word, and for good reason. Free expression helps create the foundation for freedom, and it's that very freedom that dictators fear. When I attend events like this, conferences and the ministerials the last 2 years, I often hear three observations about the news that cover religion. The first observation is that the news media doesn't cover religion consistently enough. The second observation, we heard it this week, is that when religion is covered, it's usually religion in conflict, not religion as a constructive component of society. And then the third observation I hear is when the persecuted are free, they're often very grateful that their story was regularly in the news and covered, thereby putting pressure in part on the local government and regime. So I'd like to just address those three observations quickly. First, news organizations are under tremendous pressure because of the technology change and going to digital from print. What that often results in is that newsrooms have staff cuts. And who do you think is the first reporter cut in a newsroom under financial pressure? But the religion reporter. It's not the sports reporter, it's the religion reporter. So there are some news organizations that simply don't have religion reporting expertise on staff. The second observation is that religion and conflict takes up much of the news reporting, and we don't do enough stories about the constructive collaboration, the interfaith programs, the work of religious groups in communities solving problems and contributing to the vitality of communities. And then the last thing about the persecuted, they're often very grateful for the investigative work done about those who are missing and those who are being targeted by regimes. And we in the media need to make sure that the Uyghurs and the Uyghurs prisoners of conscience like Gumira Imin Todi, and the family of Rabia Kadir are never forgotten. I don't know if you've seen this placard, but this is a biographies of a dozen or so family members of Rabia who are missing. And I'll say, sort of in conclusion, I've reported from the displacement camps in Kurdistan, and what the displaced will often tell you is they don't want to be forgotten. And so the role of the media in getting to those stories is critical. A year ago this time, Pastor Andrew Brunson was finally released from Turkey, and I was glad to report that I had a reporter in the courtroom on that particular day. Then lastly, I would ask that in jurisdictions where you can do this, you should call your local news organization and ask them if they have a religion reporter. And if they say they don't, they're likely to say they don't have one because they can't afford it. But I would encourage you to take the initiative to think about how you can fund a religion reporter in your news organization, in your community. And in conclusion, religion journalism properly done by professionals is critical to the coverage of religious persecution and holding repressive regimes accountable. And religion journalism plays an important educational role in educating the community about the importance of pluralism, tolerance, and thriving communities with religious diversity. So thank you for having me.